Welcome to the Back to Life podcast, where we explore living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole, and I invite you to tune in for inspirational conversations to get you back to life. Let's get started. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Back to Life podcast, where we talk about living well, loving well, and being well. I'm your host, Nicole Green, and I am thrilled that you are joining me again as we continue our Imagine Me series. If you missed the first episode of Imagine Me Letting Go, be sure to check it out. It's a great start to this journey of discovery and empowerment. Okay, so today we're going to be diving into a topic that I think many of us struggle with, and that's saying no. Yes, you heard me right. This episode is going to be about setting and enforcing boundaries. Why? Well, because protecting your peace and our emotional health is not negotiable. So, take a seat, get comfy, and let's jump in. So, we're going to start by pausing for a moment. First, I kind of want to talk about why boundaries are so essential. So, let's start with just imagining you're at a party and everyone is crowding you and just asking you to help with this, that, and the other. And then what happens? What happens is you usually end up feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and maybe even a little resentful, right? Well, boundaries are like the invisible fence that helps define our emotional space. We teach people how to treat us. But first, we have to know what we're comfortable with and what we're not. And while we can't control other people, we can preserve our peace so that we can show up as our best self in both our relationships and our personal life. And that's really what boundaries are about. They're about how we show up in the world. It's not necessarily about like keeping people out and doing this and, holding up our hand and going, no, you can't try, you shall not pass here and all that. Don't get me wrong. That's a part of it. But boundaries really are about you more so than the other person. It's about how you want to show up. So let me share a personal story. A few years ago, I found myself in a position where I was just saying yes to every request that was coming my way. That means work projects, social events, even favors for friends and family. And I thought I was being helpful, and that would make me a good person, a good daughter, a good friend, a good coworker, a good whatever. But instead, all that did was just drain the life out of me, and it made me irritable. I realized that I was losing my sense of self and my energy was being zapped away. And that was not good. So once I started to set boundaries and starting to say no, it started to feel like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. Felt a little lighter, more energized, and I felt like I had more energy to engage with the things that truly mattered. But I needed to define what that was. And so that's really important, is to know what matters most. Because the more you know about yourself, about what you're comfortable with and everything, the more you can start living in alignment with those things. So let's ponder for a minute. Why is saying no so hard for many of us? And that's the question of the day, isn't it? But I think for many of us, it can often come down to fear of rejection, fear of disappointing others, or even fear of being seen as selfish. But let's be real here. We've all felt that twinge of guilt when we decline an invitation or we push back against a request. I mean, that's just how, especially if you've people pleased or just said yes all your life, doing something different, we're like, well, it may not look favorable on me, so it's not the most natural thing. But here's the kicker. When we people please and ignore our own needs, we're actually doing a disservice to ourselves and to the people we care about. We can't be our best self for others if we're running on empty. I mean, think about it. You can't pour from an empty cup. Bone dry and you're trying to get something from it. It's not going to work. I used to be the queen of people pleasing. And if someone asked for help, I was there. No questions asked. That, what is it, that rescuer complex type thing or whatever. But it started to feel like a burden. And I realized that my yes didn't always mean that I wanted to say yes, because it was like basically a smile while you lie. It's like, sure, I'll do that for you with clenched teeth. And so that's not cool. And that's not being authentic. Um, it meant I was afraid of saying no. But once I began to understand that it's okay to say no, I found a sense of freedom, because saying no became a way to say yes to so many other things. And this may feel selfish in some ways, but it really isn't. It actually helps you to be more present and all in for those things that mattered most and for the people who matter most. So now that we've paused and we've pondered, let's prepare to take action. How do we actually set those boundaries in real life? So let me share with you a few practical tips to get you started. And you can find this list in the show notes. 1, start small. If saying no feels daunting, begin with a smaller request. Start practicing saying no to low stakes situations, like declining an invitation to an event that you don't want to attend. The more you practice, the easier it will get. Or if you're not sure, or you're feeling like, I want to say yes, even though, you're still conflicted with people pleasing type tendencies, one thing you can do is you can say, let me get back to you on that. And that way, that buys you some time to say yes. But inevitably, that buys you some time to say no, sorry. But inevitably, if you don't want to go, or you don't want to do something, the simplest thing is to clearly say no, which leads us to number 2, which is be clear and direct. When setting boundaries, clarity is going to be key. So it's okay to be direct and honest about what you can and cannot do, but you need to know what your capacity is. And guess what? When you say that you can't do something, you don't owe anyone an elaborate explanation. You really don't, because no is a complete sentence. And a simple, I can't take that on right now, is perfectly valid. I know a lot of people tend to, why? Why can't you do this? I can't because I can't. And that is all that you need to say, period. Number 3, communicate your needs. In your relationships, share your boundaries openly. Whether it's with friends, families, or colleagues, let them know what you need to maintain your peace. You might be surprised at how understanding they can be. Some people aren't understanding. They're just like, no, why can't you do this for me? And especially sometimes that can be tricky the closer you are to that person in relationship. But it is important to communicate your needs. Number 4, prioritize self-care. Remember, self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. Carving out some time for yourself regularly, whether that's to relax, to engage in hobbies, or simply doing nothing or resting, is imperative, and it's effective for your functioning. And protecting your time is also a way of protecting your peace. One thing I want you to think about is, when you say yes to something, you are also saying no to something as well. So it is important that you make sure that that yes is worth it. A lot of times we don't, when we're faced with a request, we feel like a sense of urgency where we have to kind of go, yes, no, whatever, we have to answer right away. But just think about it. When you're weighing something like a request from someone, Think about it. If you say yes to this, what am I saying no to? You can ask yourself, what am I saying no to? And then that way, that can help you to realize, one, do I have the capacity for this? Two, do I even want to do this? Three, should I be doing this? But like I said, once again, it's important to know what are the things that matter most in order to kind of weigh those decisions. And then finally, five, it's important to reflect on your progress. After you start setting boundaries, take a moment to reflect on how it feels. Are you feeling less overwhelmed? Are you feeling more in control? Sometimes, and it's like, where do you still need some help, kind of setting those boundaries? Celebrating those wins, no matter how small, is also important. And it's encouraging to kind of help you to keep going along. A great resource for boundaries or setting boundaries is a book by Nedra Glover Tawwab called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. You should check it out. I highly recommend it. So let's close right now with a moment to reflect. I want to invite you to think about one area in your life where you could start saying no. Is this with specific people? Is this in specific circumstances or situations? Think about what's one request or expectation that you've been carrying that you're ready to release. And I want you to imagine the relief you'd feel by setting that boundary. Now, I want you to take a deep breath with me. Come on, in through your nose and out through your mouth, slowly and steady. And while you do that, I want you to visualize yourself confidently saying no. That you are saying yes to prioritizing your peace and also saying yes to the things that matter most. Remember, saying no opens the door to saying yes to what truly matters in your life. And how does that feel for you? The more you say no, the more empowered you'll be to choose your best yes. So I want to thank you for joining me today on this journey to empower yourself through boundary setting. I hope you found some valuable insights and encouragement today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. Join me next time for the next installment of our Imagine Me series, where we'll be exploring building healthy self-esteem in Imagine Me Confident. Until then, be well, take care of yourself, and remember, you have the power to create the life that you desire. Choose well. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories about this series that we're talking about. You can follow us online at our website or on socials, and information about that is in the show notes. Be well.